Hello, how are you? It's Christmas early today because I'm giving the gift that keeps on giving. Widowmaker, the hero everyone loves to hate whether she's on your team or the enemy team, but as I like to say, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. So today we're going to learn how to pwn some noobs with Widowmaker. Now hold on, before we hop into a game and ruin a bunch of people's day in quick player competitive, we need to take about 10 to 15 minutes in the practice range to learn some basic but essential mechanics. Even if you're a hardened veteran, I invite you to come in with me and refresh your memory on these. The first is the timing on her 2-tap body shot for 200 hit point heroes. With her newest buff, she's back to being a 2-tap and body shot machine. Almost. Still, this timing is very important to know. If you happen to body shot someone, you need to know exactly how long you need to wait before going for that second kill shot. Shoot too early and they don't die. Shoot too late and you're giving your opponent precious time that you don't need to be giving them. Remember, of course, if they have a Lucio heal or something, you have to wait a little bit longer. Now, to start off, if you have no clue what the timing is for this, shoot a fully charged shot to the body, and then wait until the meter reads about 70% before you shoot again. You'll also need to get down the headshot charge timing. That is the amount of time you need to. For this, the meter needs to read at least 40%. Don't develop bad habits early by not following these optimal breakpoints. The next thing you need to practice a bit is Widow's reload cancel. You're going to be canceling your reload a lot actually with this character, with both your Grapple and your Widow Mine. And though it's a small detail really, making it a habit early will help you out in the long run. Now, I like to use the third click of her reload animation as an audio cue for when to cancel. It will always work if you cancel the reload just after that third click, when she first puts the magazine in her gun. Finally, and I know everyone knows this one, but if you press your jump button while in the middle of the grapple, you retain your momentum and you kind of go flying up into the air. Just make sure you go do it. Just go do it a little bit. Get the timing down if you've never played Widow before, just before you hit the ledge for maximum distance. You can also do this to travel along the floor. Something you may not have known, however, is that if you hit jump right as you hit the ground, it's a very specific timing, you actually maintain some of your momentum, and you can actually gain a tiny bit more distance than you normally would be able to by executing this jump. This is very precise, however, like I said, and it's not something you can really do consistently, so don't bother practicing it. Alright, that's it for Widow 101. Now we'll move on to the fun stuff, or I guess the more fun stuff. Relatively. But remember, Widow is almost entirely aim dependent. I can tell you the right ways to play her, but you need to put in the hard hours until you can consistently click on people. As far as the general idea of playing Widow is concerned, it's pretty simple, so this will be pretty short. Let's start with the Grapple. You can use this to get back to the fight faster from spawn, but other than that, you should almost always save it, exclusively for emergencies. Think it might be a tad more convenient to grapple over there to that next ledge in the middle of the fight? Don't do it. Once your grapple is on cooldown, you're nothing. You're nothing but delicious spaghetti for any flankers who come your way. But even if you do use your grapple judiciously and you save it for escapes, spaghetti is just too delicious. And people want it really badly. So you'll find yourself faced with flankers despite your best efforts to run away. You have two tools in this case, your Widow Mine and your machine gun. Let's talk about the Widow Mine first. So the best place to put these things is on door frames. That way, it'll hit your opponents without them being able to see it beforehand. They can't destroy it. You can either put it in a doorway that you think the enemy flankers will approach you from, or you can put it in a doorway that you think you will be escaping to. It's usually more consistent to put it along your escape route. Most areas don't just have one place a flanker could come from. You can also throw the mine into the main body of the team fight if you really don't think you need it. You don't think you need to worry about flankers. And, it's better than nothing in that case, but it usually doesn't do much. Next, we have her machine gun. This weapon is kind of bad, kind of hard to use. It's only very useful super up close because of the crazy bullet spread, and even then it's pretty unreliable. There's no way to control the spread, and it takes a long time for the accuracy to come back once you start shooting, so it's basically spray and pray. There is a bit of a technique to it though. The first shots are pretty accurate, so you need to really make those count. You want to be aiming at the head, definitely, for the first 3 or 4 shots. After that, though, the spread starts to go crazy, so drag your crosshair down to around their chest level, and that way you'll land more shots with the crazy spread. Despite its downsides, a lot of fights are actually pretty winnable if you also manage to trigger your Widow Mine on the flanker. If you can predict where a flanker is coming from using footsteps and game sense, you can even get off a charged shot maybe a good amount of the time as well. It's kind of a struggle and requires a lot of carefulness and planning, but Widow can hold her own against actually a lot of flankers, particularly those who aren't diva. Alright, all of this stuff so far has been pretty easy. Those are just some basic good habits to have with Widow, but how successful you wind up being in the long run goes back to these basics. So definitely get these down before even thinking about your aim and all that. But still, in the end, Widowmaker does eventually come down to the aim. Unlike most heroes, no matter how good your decision making and game sense is, if you can't click the heads, or the bodies at least, you'll never be very useful. So let's talk a little bit about aim. Now, aside from basic mouse control stuff, Widowmaker gets very little out of training with bots. Unfortunately, with Widowmaker, you aren't going to be doing any really big flicks with your gun. If you place your crosshair correctly and make sure to aim before scoping in, the enemy will always be pretty close to the center of your screen anyway. Because of this, and because of our slow fire rate, we're going to be doing a lot of these little micro corrections rather than the bigger, smoother movements you might see when you're playing McCree or Soldier, and even Anna, who shoots a lot faster with her rifle. And the way the enemy hero is moving is very important when playing Widowmaker. Bots won't give you this dimension, so I suggest you do all of your aim training in quick play. And I don't mean just play quick play and do whatever. I mean do quick play with the express intention of improving your aim. Pay attention to your technique, experiment, and try to get as high of an accuracy as possible. Now, getting good with Widow's rifle is going to take you a long time. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't come very quickly. That being said, I've seen a lot of players hit sort of a hard cap where their aim stops improving at really too low of a level. If you're sure you have all the basic mechanics, all the basic habits down, and you're still having that issue, your sensitivity is likely too high. Widowmaker is a hero that, once you develop really solid crosshair placement and map awareness, truly does need a lower sensitivity. I'm going to get some hate in the comments for this one. I know, because it's such a debatable topic, but you also need low scope sensitivity because your crosshair movement is generally restricted to a very small space near the center of the screen. Lower scope sensitivities are better. For reference, I use 28. And I know, ex-professional player plays at wide sensitivity and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But remember, everyone is different. And I found that many capped out Widowmakers are too shaky and they overshoot a lot. They need to lower their sensitivity. Like I said, their scope sensitivity in particular. It almost always works. So try it out if you find yourself in that boat. Now, I've made a few different aiming videos and all the basics still pretty much apply here, so check those out for more information. I'll go over one general aiming technique though here because it is something a lot of Widows have trouble with. AD spammers, particularly the ones with wonky animations like McCree. See, a good AD spammer will be too random for you to simply point and click on. And unless maybe you're some sort of uber Widow god, which you aren't, you can't flick fast enough to reliably hit them either. By the time you drag your mouse over and click, even if you do it super fast, the movement speed in this game is such that their head or their body can already be out of your flick, which will cause you to miss. Really, unless you are a freak of nature, like I said, hitting good AD spammers who have a good pattern, it's very random, really comes down to a lot of luck. There's a good, consistent way to do it, however. Now, this isn't a new concept at all, but I don't really know what to call it, so I'm going to call it drag aiming. Use drag aiming to hit AD spammers. Drag aiming is where you, as the name implies, drag your crosshair across the screen smoothly in a way that you think will eventually intercept the person you want to shoot. Then, once your crosshair is over them, just click the button, and while you're still dragging across. This removes the mouse movement element of the shot, and the only thing you need to worry about is the speed that you click the button. Doing this allows even ordinary men to be fast enough to hit an AD spammer because you're cutting out a big element of the aim. In this case, simply drag your crosshair along the line that they're AD spamming in and click the button. Only use drag aiming for enemies who have a very predictable linear path, so usually just restricted to AD spammers. Okay, so you have the mechanics, you have the basics, you have that killer aim, you're ready to go out and become pro. But wait, honestly, being good at the game and having good aim is only half of the pie when it comes to playing Widowmaker. No matter how good you are, if you don't learn the Widow versus Widow matchup, you're going to be useless if an opponent decides to counter you that way. Even if you aren't necessarily the best Widowmaker in general, if you're good at the Widow versus Widow matchup specifically, you'll almost always be very effective when the other team has a Widow, even if they're actually a lot better than you in every other way, because you'll be able to shut them down. Likewise, if you play a lot of Widow yourself, you don't want to be shut down by someone who knows how to duel better than you. The reason for this is that Widow versus Widow matchups aren't really about aim. That plays a big part, sure, but the biggest issue is taking the correct angles and peeking at the correct times in the correct way, because someone who leverages their positioning better will have way too big of an advantage to actually have aim be involved or be overcome with raw aim. So let's talk about them. Angles, that is. Overwatch is all about corners. Enemies come out from corners. Enemy Widowmakers come out from corners. Now, the way angles work, the further away you are from a corner, the more you can actually see around the corner. The closer you are, the less you see. So in this clip, I get killed by a Widowmaker that I cannot see. She wasn't behind me or anything, she was right in front of me actually, but she is just so much further away from the corner than I am that she gets to see more, so she actually sees me first. So, rule number 1, when both Widows are peeking a corner, the one who is further away will win. So if you think you have the angle advantage, that is, if you think you're further away from the corner than they are, you're safe to peek out. Oh, by the way, peek means to come around the corner. So anyway, you should peek slowly when this is the case, because you're going to see them first, so you want to peek slowly and get that spot where you can see them, but they can't see you. If you think you have an angle disadvantage, ideally you shouldn't be peeking at all. But there are times you have to peek a short angle to try to open something up. In this case, you need to get past the area where they can see you, but you can't see them as fast as possible. You do this with a fast peek. There are 2 ways to do a fast peek. The first is to start peeking before your scope comes all the way in. So right-click and immediately pop out. You'll still have the full speed and you won't be slowed down by the scope until it actually comes up. Here, it's very important to be familiar with your headshot charge time though, because you'll want to shoot the moment it hits 40% to one-shot the enemy Widow in the head. The other type of fast peek is a jump peek. You don't lose jumping momentum even if you're scoped in, so if you right-click and you jump out just as your scope comes out, you're still going to come out at full speed. This will put you farther away from the corner, so it's a little bit more dangerous than a regular fast peek, and you'll have a harder shot because of the disorientation from the jumping, but it is more surprising and faster than the regular fast peek we went over before. Use a jump peek when you aren't really sure exactly where the other Widow is, and for very aggressive plays. Also remember, as far as angles go, that your camera looks out from your head. Certain areas, like this stairwell on Hollywood, give an advantage to the player down the slope, down the stairs, because your feet will come into vision before your head does. Alright, next up, this game has a significant peeker advantage. Very significant, equal to the combined ping of both players, plus a few more milliseconds because of the tick rate and all that. This game is shooter favored, meaning if the shooter sees something on their client and clicks on it, it will register as a hit no matter where the other player really is. You can kind of say, not exactly, but you can kind of say that when you shoot someone, the game views it as happening the instant you click the button, and it sort of transcends normal lag and ping. Anyway, because of this, well, let's say everyone has 50 ping. Okay, 50 ping. If you're standing looking at a corner with Widow, and someone peeks you, they have to transmit the data to the server that they moved. So 50 millisecond delay. Then you have to get the message from the server that they moved. Again, another 50 millisecond delay. Account for the tick rate, blah, 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 and you're up to well over 100 milliseconds delay between when the player comes out and you actually see them. Now, compare that to the player who actually was the one who peeked you, and they have no delay at all. The moment they hit that button to move out and peek you, they see you instantly standing there with no delay. And they can shoot at you with no delay because of the favor the shooter thing that I mentioned before. All in all, that player has upwards of 150 milliseconds advantage or more, again, depending on ping and stuff, before your computer even registers that they moved. Because of this, when all else is equal, the peeker always wins. So, rule number 2, if both Widows know where each other are, particularly if they have their ult up, right, because then they know exactly, they can see you through the wall, in that case, the peeker wins every time. So if you both have your visor up, never, ever let the other Widowmaker peek you. She will always win. Instead, try to bait it out by hiding behind the corner right as you think that they're going to peek, and then you can re-peek them once they come out of the corner. That being said, if you don't know where the other Widow is, and they kind of have an idea of where you are, 100 milliseconds still won't be enough. In this case, unless you know exactly where the other Widowmaker is, the peeker will, in this case, lose. So if you peek a corner, and a Widow shot flies by your head, causing you to duck back in to cover, and you aren't really exactly sure where the shot came from, don't re-peek. You will die, 100% guaranteed. Alright, I know. We're almost done. I went over this trick in my movement guide video, but it's especially relevant for Widowmaker, so I'll throw it here. Crouch is your friend. If you peek someone and immediately crouch, it will usually catch them by surprise, hopefully making their shot whiz over your head. Don't be too predictable, however. If you keep crouching like that, people are going to catch on. Mix it up. Do some regular peeks, some crouching peeks, some jumping peeks. Keep your opponent on their toes. So, alright, that's about it, guys. I don't think you could really be more prepared to hop in and become Widowmaker pros. Oh, don't tell anyone in your rank matches that I sent you. Nothing personal. I just don't really want an angry pitchfork mob at my doorstep tomorrow. Yeah, I know. Also, I didn't go over her ultimate. It's pretty straightforward, though. I'm sure you get it. Just make sure you use it right as the other team is about to push, or right as your team is about to push for the greatest effect. But other than that, like I said, I'm sure you get it. Anyway, guys, let me know what your Widowmaker tips are in the comments. What do you think I missed in this guide? Also, like if you liked it, which I hope you did, stay positive, have a merry Overwatch Christmas patch, and have a great day. Peace out, guys.